Hello there, this is Richie from the Metal Cell podcast. We've got the forums. I welcome back Evan, Danielle and Joe. Great to see you, lads.
Hello.
Well,
howdy doody.
Yeah, Jesus, on a shitty stormy night, so if I need and if you got any mad echoes or reverb, don't fucking blame me. That's all I'd say.
Yeah. Blame the weather. Man yells at cloud.
So come here, let's get straight into it. The Dublin Hill evictions. Evan, you were there on the scene. Did you hear about this, Joe?
I did indeed.
Yeah. Fucking hell, man. Can
you tell us how it developed? Did you get a random?
Yeah, I'll give you the whole thing, because I think as well there's a lot of rumors spreading around, and that shouldn't be happening.
Okay.
Like, people are taking small things and then giving it fucking spider legs, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So I get this call from a guy, I think his name was Patrick Lynch, and I kind of know the guy, but this is at 7:45, 8 o'clock. I'm sitting in my bed and I'd see this lad trying to call me, and I'm like, I don't answer the phone to my parents. I am not going to answer this. Then he left me a message being like, man, you want to get down to Blackpool? There's a lad that's after breaking the lock, and he's starting to tell everyone to get out or their gear is gone and all this shit. So I called him and I was like, what the fuck is going on? He was kind of like, I don't know. Apparently he's repossessing the place. So the first person I called was Jack. Jack straight away was like, right, I'll drive down to yours. We went down, and by the time we got there, and now we were there within half an hour. So I say this is like 8:30.
How did you get there?
Jack drove us down.
Okay.
So we got there, the car park for Blackpool filled. I mean, absolutely filled, because obviously word had spread so quick. And went up to the door, and the first thing I asked your man was, where's Richie? And your man is a fucking cunt. Absolute dickhead. The first thing he does is like, I don't give a fuck where Richie is. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Blah, blah, blah.
You had never seen this guy before?
No, never.
He was
never
just
seen
standing
this.
there.
He broke the lock. Apparently, he's the landlord's brother.
Okay.
He had no papers, no nothing. I started asking him what the fuck is going on, and he starts telling me, I have 10 minutes to go in and get my gear, and I was just like, oh fuck, if you think you're giving me 10 minutes to get all that. And then he starts going, right, that's it, you're not getting in, get out. And I'm like, fuck you. I'm whatever, man. Walked in anyway, trying to talk to a few people, trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Then Richie comes down.
Okay. Poor
Poor Richie, man. He was screaming at this lad, asking for papers, which he didn't have. So everything was completely illegal. Guards came down. Guards started talking to your man. And this is one thing I'll say now. I usually try to have some kind of sympathy for guards. My mother was a guard, right? And there's dickhead guards out there, and my mum will be the first to say it, there is, but these lads were fucking cunts. The first thing they started doing is talking to your man, and they were absolutely fine and dandy talking to him. They were probably this close away from getting a coffee for him, and I could hear your man being like, what is he saying? It's like, oh, Jesus, yeah, no, I didn't mean it to go down like this, where he's then, just before that shouting at all of us saying he doesn't give a fuck about our gear. We're to get out 10 minutes, locking up, and that's it. We're not seeing it again, or shit to that fucking nature. I tried to ask the guards, because the guards were just kind of trying to move us along, because, you'd forget there's a fucking pandemic when something like that happens,
How many bands are in there, roughly,
30. Maybe
30,
more.
okay.
I don't know. There's a lot of rooms, and there's might be 3 bands per room.
Okay.
But yeah, there was the guards were just. I tried to ask a question. What I wanted to know was, they were saying, look, whatever, leave your gear, get out of here. And I was like, well, if I leave my gear here, am I just prolonging the inevitable of me having to? Because we got Alex Vinci to come down with the van. Thank God for him. Because you have to organize stuff when this shit starts happening. You have to get on it quick. So people had vans coming in and out. I was just trying to calmly ask, if I leave this stuff here, there's no lock on this door now, and Dublin Hill isn't exactly the fucking safest area to be leaving stuff without a lock as well, to be fair. But I couldn't even get 2 sentences out or 2 words out, and the guard is like, "I've given you an answer," and I was like, "I haven't even asked my question," and he just keeps fucking snapping at me and blah blah, and like looking for arguments with people. Then he starts going on about like they're going to start slapping fines on us, like, and he can go fuck himself. Like, the only fucking fine slap would be my hand off his mother's arse at this stage. Like, what?
How old is this guard? Was he an old guy or was he young enough?
I'd say 40s. Like, they're
All right,
not young.
okay.
Like, between like late 30s, like mid 40s kind of thing. Absolutely no help. They were saying, even when they were talking to your man that caused this absolute lunacy, was just like, look, I'd say it's best if you head on. There was no animosity towards him whatsoever, even though he's the fucking reason that everyone now is coming down in this big massive panic. And the other thing as well is he's going telling people that Richie hasn't paid the rent in 4 years, and obviously that'll start spreading, which that is bullshit. That's not fucking true at all, you know? And I've heard from a few people messaging me being like, "Oh, did you hear Richie hasn't paid rent in 4 years?" Bullshit. The issue is that during COVID, some people haven't been able to pay it. The landlord didn't lower the rent like a lot of other places are doing. So when people aren't working, you know, can't pay, Richie is he's just so good to all of us. Like, Richie is like, you know, he might be a little behind because some bands can pay all, others can't. Like, we're lucky that we're all working. We just pay on time every time. And this lad just sends down the fucking goons, starts busting open the door. No communication with Richie. There was all this shit said that Richie was supposed to be in court that morning and Richie didn't show up. That's not true at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, these lads were just going on the warpath to try have people turn on Richie. Do you know what I mean? And you could see by Richie, this is the fucking first he's hearing of any of this, you know? And the only thing that I know now that has come from Richie is that he is talking to the landlord. Richie's getting it sorted. Richie's getting the arrears sorted in whatever way he can. And he's trying to get the place back up and operational as soon as possible. I think the main thing is that I just don't want rumors spreading like they, and which naturally will happen because, you know, a panic situation like that, people aren't thinking properly. But what happened on Monday night was fucking disgraceful, like, absolute. And the fact that when a lad comes down, bursts open a door with no papers and tells the guard, "Oh, I'm just this," no real fucking questioning whatsoever. Really, not that much. Is just.
He's the landlord's brother, is it?
That's apparently that's what he's saying. You know, like, no papers, no nothing. The lock, like, there's a big industrial lock that you need fingerprint recognition to get in, is burst on the floor. You know, there's people coming in and out, people scared out of their fucking minds, thinking that they're never going to get their gear back and all this stuff. And then when the guards are saying to leave it, or you can leave it there, people too scared to leave it there. And also there's like 100, 150 people in and out of here all within half an hour, you know? Fucking, but it's fucking disgraceful. Like, oh.
And there's Tom, or the Freds then offered up his place for people to store gear as well.
What a legend, yeah. Anyone that didn't have anywhere to store gear, because there's a lot of people that are only using it for storage. Tom and Fred's was like, you know, we can organise times for bands to come in and leave it up upstairs in Fred's in the venue. Yeah, he made it very clear. It's like, you can't practice there, because there was a few people that said it to me, being like, "Why don't you ask Tom if you can practice in Fred's?" I was like, "Do you honestly think the guards are just going to walk past Fred's and hear us playing and be like, that's
they
don't
clearly
worry
live
about
there.
that at all." Like, oh yeah, they clearly live there. Like, but
some cheek on the fucking owner of it though, wanting to charge rent for somewhere when people can't use it. Like,
yeah,
you know, like
absolutely.
There's a similar thing going on up here where there's a rehearsal place and the guys having to close it down because the people who own it are charging full rent.
Yeah,
and, like, obviously bands can't use it. No one's going in. It's just fucking.
Well, that's the thing. Like, luckily I'm able to go up on my own. But it's still within it's literally on the cusp of my 5K. I'm able to go in on my own, you know, one person per room, and everyone's been very good with that. And we're still paying our rent, regardless of using it or not, because at the end of the day, you know, we're paying Richie. Like, it's like if we're like, look, we can't do it, you know, then Richie's fucked, and then you're leaving a place fucked. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
But
I bet you the wanker man who owns the place is getting assistance from the government as well. So he's looking to get full rent off bands who aren't able to use the place, and also getting assistance from the state, you know, pleading the poor mouth.
I wouldn't be surprised, man, by the way he went about that. I wouldn't be surprised of any foul play.
Is that the first time that has ever happened? Was there any issues before? No?
Not that I know of, and definitely nothing to that level.
No,
I know,
but obviously to that level, yeah. But
yeah, you know, like there has, I'm sure there's been times where, you know, not many bands are paying rent or behind or something, and it's a lot of stress on Richie. But I mean, nothing to that magnitude. And I mean, Richie has been there for, did someone say nearly 20? I don't know if it's 20 years, but it's he's been there a long time. And it's that thing as well. If that place goes,
exactly.
Because you know, I was freaking straight away by the way your man was talking, like instantly being like I can't lose like a place to play drums. Where the fuck do I go? But you know, then like you kind of calm down and you're like, right, let's see what the fuck is going on. And fair play to Richie, he stayed out there. I still don't know if he's actually left since. He stayed out there. If anyone wants to go out with any gear, Richie is there. Richie will go and talk to you. I've called Richie just to see how he is. Like he's up front. He's talking to everyone. If anyone has any questions, feel free to get on him. He sent out like group text there today, just as an update on things. But it's fucking disgraceful. Like, and the whole thing, your man's that brother lad is. There's nothing going to be said to him. Like nothing at all. Richie is still. It's still Richie's place, you know, and there's going to be no breaking and entering or anything like that. There's no criminal damage or anything, you know. The man was nearly given a fucking cup of coffee, and he was then the next day was back in, driving in and out of the car park, just looking like, you know.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, there's no alternative really for bands around, is there?
There's very, very, very not enough for all of the bands, you know, and that's the real that would be the real worry. And I'd have full faith in Richie now to be able to kind of get it together. But I mean, after that kind of thing, like, it's understandable for bands to be afraid, being like, well, is this okay to leave stuff up there? Like, is that going to happen again? And which that's the cloud that'll be over it. Yeah. But that was the whole plan with them, just fucking scare tactics. Do you know what I mean? Poor Richie.
You know what? I mean,
freaking like.
Who's to say like a GoFundMe page wouldn't sort the whole fucking thing out either? You know.
Well, this is it. There's a few people have mentioned something like that. You know, like, I'm not going to say the amount. You know.
Yeah.
But I heard some people saying it was like 120,000 or 150,000. It's not that.
Can't.
Richie's place, huh? Fucking.
Yeah.
It doesn't smell bad either, which is incredible.
Yeah, but you're lucky. Fucking hell. Right, I sent on a few songs for you to review, and we'll see how you get on. So the first one up is a band called Brain Donation. The song is Hopeless Shit, and the band consists of Dan on guitars, Alan on bass, Ollie on drums. They formed in 2015, and they're from Dublin. They've toured Ireland, UK and Eastern Europe, funnily enough, promoting 2 EPs and 2 singles. The movie is the first full-length offering from them, and it's coming out on June the 17th. And as I said, Hopeless Shit is the single off it. That's going to be released on March the 25th. It was mastered by Ivan Jackman at Hellfire Studios. So the song addresses nightclub lurking, catcalling, and strip club culture by their proper title, Hopeless Shit. I tell you, man. Anyway, we'll give it a spin and see what you think.
three. I don't understand. Know what you can read with a sleight of the hand. Hopeless shit. Hopeless shit. Rocks at the creek.
Okay, I'm hearing Queens of the Stone Age off this. It's quite catchy. But anyway, I'll leave it on to the experts. We'll go with you first, Danielle. What do you think?
When I first heard it, I was like, this reminds me of a song, and I can't think of it, and it literally just came to me there. Song by Marcy's Playground, Coming Up From Behind. Yeah, I think it's quite catchy. Like, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, I don't know what to make this, but as it went on, I actually really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more from these guys. There's something unusual about them, and I thought it was the riff was really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be interested to see more.
Okay. Ev?
I actually really liked it. It's reminds me of a band from Dublin, New Secret Weapon. Yeah, it's cool. It's got that kind of like deserty vibe to it. It's, you know, it's actually nice to get tunes like this that aren't, you know, that are a bit different to everything else. Like, I'd say, I have a feeling as well they'll be great crack live. You know, I really feel like they'd be a band that I'd love to go with Howard. Like, straight away, I was like, that's a band now I'd go down with Howard and sink a few pints to. Yeah, no, I actually enjoyed that a lot. Yeah,
because it has potential, all right. Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, pretty good. The band it reminded me of was Blur, actually.
Yeah, I can hear that. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Especially the guitars. There was definitely, because I suppose whenever you think of Queens of the Stone Age, you think of that kind of, you know, Nick Colavari type distorted bass kind of.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was a wee bit more understated, so I thought it was good. I guess again, it's one of those things, isn't it? Where I don't know. Did anyone think it sounded particularly like Irish or European? Like I thought it was very American sounding.
Oh, it was very American sounding.
Yeah.
No, I was definitely had that American swag to it. All right, it didn't have a. Well, in saying that, like, I think, yeah, they're like the American version of New Secret Weapon, because even though New Secret Weapon do have that sound, there's still a lot of like Irishism in their songwriting, I think.
Yeah, just
they're like a newer secret weapon.
It's one of those things as well. It's kind of like, I don't know, like it's hard to get annoyed by listening to something like that. You know, it's catchy. Yeah. It's not trying to hurt your ears.
It's not in your face. Like,
and that's not what you can say about some of our other choices today.
It's coming. Okay, so on to the next one. So we all enjoy that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So that was Brain Donation. What should you get it name, actually?
Brain Donation or Hopeless Shit? I think Brain Donation is a shit name.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not. I wouldn't expect Brain Donation to sound like that.
Yeah. I think Hopeless Shit would be a better band name. I definitely, if I saw that in a poster, I'd go to it. I'd go to
Brain Donation
now, though.
I think Brain Donation sounds like a punk band.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah. Okay, so the next band are Caged, and they're on Cursed Monk Records. So it's Ryan on guitars, John on vocals, Tim on drums, Tyler on bass, and Joe on mixer and turntables. Well done, Joe. Good to see you involved.
Branching out.
So they were formed out of the ashes of a Philadelphia sludge band called Black Urn. Cage ride a wave of sludge, death, doom on their first EP. Stricken by continuance. Crawling corrosive riffs are responsible for the meat of the release, laying out a backdrop for vocalist John Jones, whose scream adds another layer of misery to the EP. So we'll give this a listen.
Brilliant.
Sounds great anyway.
Lovely.
And Yeah, I really like this. I wasn't sure at first, but I love the double bass in it as well. I'm not sure what Joe does on the turntables, but
He
that might be
spins them
there.
around like,
that might
and
be
then
the
he
wrong
stops them
song
and
for
then
it.
spins them around again a little bit.
If I was in that band, I'd be listening to Dire Straits on the turntables.
On stage, like during the gig, like.
Okay, Joe, we'll start with you then.
Not really my thing at all. Not economical amount of riffs, one note per second kind of stuff. Like, again, I suppose the production is pretty good, to like try and stay positive on it. But like I find all those kind of vocals really kind of hard to get into,
Yeah.
I know some bands kind of like, especially hardcore bands, who kind of incorporate a bit of that and it works really well. But it's like, if it's the whole way through and it's like that, it's hard for me anyway as a pleb to get into it.
Okay. Danielle?
I fucking loved it. The second tune, I was like, yeah, sold. I thought it was class. And the second I seen it was Correspondent Records, I knew I'd like it anyway. I like everything that Roger does.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, the double bass, that really caught me off guard as well. I wasn't expecting that, and I really enjoyed it. And I listened to one or two more of their tunes, and I thought they were really, really good. So I'm definitely going to check them out. One thing I don't know, this could be my laziness, I didn't look into it, but for those type of bands where you can't make out what they're singing from listening to it, I think they should make an effort to put up their lyrics. No, I'm not saying this band hasn't, but it's just a point. I'd be interested to see what they're actually
What the fuck?
not singing, but kind of playing about. I'd actually love to know about
A band like that, if you brought them to Ireland, they'd get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
They would, they'd be great.
Okay. Ev?
I think I'd be very similar to Joe. I think, like, just the kind of doom, like, the riffs, I think the production and everything is actually a lot better than a lot of the other kind of doom bands that we've got. But, and there's kind of that cool southern style to it, but it just gets very, if that section comes in with, like, from a faster part, for me will hit more. But I'm like, I just doom stuff. I find it very hard to sit through. I couldn't listen to a full album of it. Like, but my thing is, again, like, they do an Irish tour now. People will fucking love them. I think in Ireland there's a massive thing for doom.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just not one of them. I'm aware of it as well. So
yeah. Okay, that's cool.
I don't smoke weed anymore either. So maybe that's a fucking issue. Like,
I don't smoke weed really.
I enjoyed it anyway, regardless of weed or not. But I kept going. Yeah, it'd be nice to have a J watching them play live. Yeah,
that would be cool, actually. Yeah.
Okay, so the third act is a well-established band called Mark, and Catralel is the band's fifth album. So it's Norwegian for cathedral. And it sees the band pushing new creative frontiers with a more dynamic approach to song composition and expanded breadth to the riffs, melodies, weaving new masterpiece. The result is a true personal work of intense spiritual catharsis for main man Thomas Eriksson. So he's the singer. And the concept behind the title, they said, is actually an old one. He'd lain around since the early days of Mark. I always had a vision of a vast, desolate, cold and dead land and a gigantic cathedral where lost souls are kept for all eternity.
Mayo.
Wow. So, I'm glad you like that, Joe. So since their creation in 2004, Mark has rightly earned the accolade as one of the top Norwegian black metal acts of recent years, receiving strong endorsements from their peers. So the album will be released on CD, gatefold, black vinyl, and digital through Peaceful on the 5th of March. So shout out to Thomas, who sent me the track, and Simon Glacken of For the Lost PR. He told me about the band. The videos, did any of you see the video? No,
I just got the tracks that you sent.
Okay, all the lads are in corpse paint. So it's really great. I really enjoyed it as a blackened metal song. There was a strong chorus in it, and the singing and they didn't ruin it with unnecessarily blast beats, would be my take on that, because I absolutely love blast beats, as you all know.
Sarcasm.
Okay, Danielle, since Evan's busy rolling one.
Are we going to listen to it, or are we just going to talk about it?
Okay,
I was rolling one to listen to it. Like,
give it a blast first, and first of all.
Caught you there now.
There you go.
Now, what do you think, Danielle?
Yeah, no, it was a few days ago when I listened to it, but I thought the drum pattern kind of at the start is a bit like Iron Maiden, but I'm kind of the same as you. Black metal is kind of new to me, but that's kind of accessible black metal, isn't it, really?
Definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, again, not my thing, but in Norway, it's funny that there's still people turning out black metal. You think it's all done before, but it's kind of a new take on it.
Yeah, and the old corpse paint and actually singing. You know,
Yeah.
I was just keen to hear, like, Jack is obviously mega aware of this crowd, you know, so he will be watching with interest on our opinions on him. I would say, Joe, you enjoyed him, did you? A bit of creator going on there as well.
Wee bit. Yeah, like I think a lot of these bands, Scandinavian bands like that, or even like bands like Wathien and stuff, they're really into that kind of Motorhead kind of drum sound, or, you know, like early Sodom, early Destruction, with like rock and roll. So it's kind of nearly, you know, someone mixed rock and roll with this kind of
Black
proto thrash kind of stuff. It's not really like my cup of tea musically and stuff. Again, I think the vocals are an acquired taste. But it's definitely a lot more palatable than a lot of that other sort of stuff from the same kind of scene, you know?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Yeah. Ev?
Yeah, I'd actually fully agree with Joe. I don't like black metal at all, but, you know, having listened to so much of it, even with here, and, you know, same with Doom, like there's a lot of people around us that love it. So I've been trying to listen to more of it. And they're a decent black metal band. You know, they're good at what they do, but it's just not for me. I'm fucking wasted on me. Like,
do you think, like, a lot of those black metal bands, like from the start, like I found a lot of them were just unlistenable. Do you think?
Oh yeah, and I think that was the vibe, though. I think that was the whole.
Yeah, a lot of it sounds like it's recorded through a sock or something like.
It probably was recorded through a sock, but you can get a fucking plug-in for that now, like.
It's weird, isn't it? It's nearly like, I think a lot of people who are massively into that kind of style of metal don't really listen to, like, they're not going to be listening to Queens of the Stone Age, or, you know.
No, it's very like once you're in, you're in. Like like that's, you know, there's some people that's not the case at all, but there is, like, I feel like black metal probably have some of the most diehard fans of all genres. You know, like once you're in, you're in. It's a blood oath.
There's a bit in that. Did anyone watch the movie, the Netflix movie there that was kind of lambasted from last year? About
your man.
One of the Culkins, was it?
Oh yeah, Macaulay Culkin's brother was in it or whatever. But there's a bit in it whenever they're in like a takeaway shop, and one of the guys goes up to talk to him, and he's like wearing Scorpions patch on his jacket. And he's like, I can't talk to you because you like the Scorpions. So, that's the ethos. Like, it's kind of like one of those.
Is that the movie about
Mayhem?
Yeah. I actually really enjoyed that movie.
But it's weird, isn't it? It's like ideological music. Like, it's like straight edge punk, or like, you know, super, you know, politicized hardcore. Unless you're 100% in on the ethos, then the tournament.
You're not allowed like anything else.
Yeah, that can suck my fucking dick anyway. That kind of attitude, like.
Yeah, I hate that.
But like again, the likes of Mark, I'd imagine if I heard that whenever that scene was around, is it nearly 20 years ago? Probably would be, would it?
Oh yeah, would be.
Yeah, if I heard them back 20 years ago, I'd be like going, yeah, because I liked my Celtic Frost, as you said, early Sodom Creator. Yeah, that would make perfect sense to me.
I think they're good at what they do. You know, I think they're definitely good at what they do. Again, it's just not my bag of socks. Like,
okay, cool. Let me see. Okay, so the next one is one of the lads from God Loan. Shout out to Keane. This is Uncultivates. He kind of caught us on the hop. Were any of you aware of this EP?
No, not at all. Bollocks.
So Keane is with God Loan and Red Sun Alert if you've been living underground for the last 5 years. And there's a few lads involved as well. Jake as well plays saxophone.
Is Dylan drumming with them?
Track, and Dylan is involved as well, yes. The EP is called I've Lost Count of the Number of Times I've Been Set on Fire, and this is the title track, so we'll give it a spin.
It's to preempt what happened earlier, like.
Yes, actually. Yeah, short and sweet. Ev, over to you.
I absolutely loved it. It's very like kind of old Converge. Even in Keane's voice, there's a like that kind of like not like, you know, that struggly Jacob Bannon kind of sound to it. Like, it's just fucking class. Like, I think everything that Keane touches is gold. And to be honest, like if I didn't like this, I'd absolutely say it. But he knocked it out of the park. I've listened to the 3 tracks on this, I don't know how many times since it came out, and he did just completely catch us off guard. Sounds unreal. Like he's going to be something, you know. It's great. Like, it's just really, really, really good. Okay. I really don't know what else to say about it. It just sounds fucking sick.
Yeah, the other 2 tracks are called Dread First and Mental Snake as well. Danielle?
It wasn't for me. I'm a huge God Loan fan, but I don't know, it was just a bit too much going on for me. But there's elements of it I enjoy. I think there was, at the start, I kind of got a System of a Down kind of a vibe off of it. But yeah, no, it wouldn't be for me. I'd be scared now if I was at a gig and the commotion. I can almost feel the sweat. I can feel like the sweat coming off the ceiling and everything like that. I'd say it'd be chaos.
Oh, it sounds brilliant.
Yeah, but yeah, not for me.
Okay, cool, Joe.
Yeah, pretty good. It reminded me of Brutal Truth for some reason.
Okay.
Obviously not really blasty and stuff. I suppose the vocals wouldn't really be my thing, but like really, really like the guitar sound and like the drums, and it sounded pretty ferocious. So I'd say it would be good live.
Yeah, ferocious is one word that stuck with me as well. Yeah, and it's loose. I think it's loose as well. Very loose.
I think that's kind of the vibe of it as well.
Yeah, I admire that, you know, because
it sounds really kind of like played live in the studios. Like Evan, you'd probably agree. It's kind of like whenever you hear those kind of like hi hats and all, you can tell that it's all really, really there. You know, it's like,
you're getting the room in there as well.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So it sounded, that whole side of it was great. Like, you know, and again, like, see doing this, I'm just like so blown away by how many of these like young up and coming bands and stuff have great production on, like, you know, first demos, first EPs, all that kind of stuff. It's amazing.
I think they did it. I presume they did it in the School of Music. I'm just presuming that's where they did it now because they're all in the School of Music. But like I think even the production choice on that was absolutely intentional. You know, like I'd say that was very well thought out of what way they wanted that to sound. You know,
Sounds great though. There's a compilation on YouTube that came out, well, originally on YouTube, but it was an Irish metal compilation from the 80s called Green Metal. And it's like all the, you know, bands
somebody
who are
shared that on something.
But man,
not long ago.
like, see, whenever you listen to it, like, there's these bands who might have been good bands, but Jesus, the production is so bad.
Yeah.
It's like, there's not even one of the songs that sounds halfway like a bad Thin Lizzy album. Like, it's all, like, the bands were being totally destroyed by having really bad production, you know. So it's great that bands now can just go out and sound as good as like a big band, you know,
and can release it without any record label or anything like that. Just throw it out digitally. There you go. Yeah, it's cool. Okay, the last band of the night is actually a solo project. It's Ocean Puncher. What do you think of that name, Danielle?
Before we came on air, it sounds like some girl fisting herself. But my mother's not listening to this episode.
I was just about to say, when you said that, I could see you were like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble now, and they're making me say, you fucking said it. I'm glad you brought that up, Richie, because when you said that earlier, I lost it as well. Like,
Jesus Christ. Okay, so Ocean Puncher is... is Keith Hines. Shout out to Keith. He's living in Cork. He's originally from Carlow. Keith said about the idea, he's never been a fan of traditional music theory when it comes to how a song is arranged. For him, he says he prefers it out to be more like a musical story, letting the song weave in and out of itself instead of the usual predictable verse, chorus, verse. He says he tries to steer the listener in a certain direction and manipulate how they're feeling while listening to certain parts. He is into music production and has his own home studio where he writes, performs, mixes and masters his own music. Okay, so we'll give this a blast and see what you think. Okay, who's the biggest gamer here? Joe?
Not a big gamer, but yeah, I like this. It's definitely part of that kind of, you know, Carpenter, Blunt, and Perturbator, and Zombie and stuff like that. So, like, they're obviously big John Carpenter fans, and, you know, those is quite admirable. A lot of those bands who do that kind of style, they're very much just aping the 70s and 80s soundtracks. So it'll be a lot of, like, Prophet's Five synths and drums and stuff. Whereas these guys are definitely doing a bit more, there's more guitar and stuff in it, you know? But like, I find it weird. It's kind of a strange thing because, like, bands who are into this scene, like, they're not, like, being influenced by other bands. They're being influenced by movies and stuff, you know? So that's kind of weird. It's like the idea that, you know, there's a whole bunch of, you know, people who love Big Trouble in Little China are going to their gigs or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's good.
No, it's a very valid point. Yeah. Like, I'm just trying. Yeah, John Carpenter obviously is definitely a massive influence on that, and anyone that has the soundtracks to a lot of his movies, you can see the influence there. Danielle?
Yeah, I like that kind of techno work kind of stuff, and I really like Golgotha. So I enjoyed it, and I did like the fact that it's not very heavily synth either. It's the kind of got the guitars in there too. So I kind of like to hear where they'll go next with it, because I think they can take it to the next level. It's just Keith by himself, did you say? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I think it's really impressive that that's just one person as well. So I think it's kind of almost slower version of some of Golgotha's stuff.
Yeah, there's a little scene kind of sprouting up there. So
yeah.
We'll see. Ed?
I think, like, as a standalone, like, just music, I really feel that, like, that would go great for, again, like, you know, a video game kind of, like, I can see it straight away where it's like, you know, the, like, just before, like, an old, like, Nintendo fight scene where they kind of come in, like, half thing where they're like, you know, that kind of thing. But, like, as an actual standalone, like, just listening to it as a song, it wouldn't be, for me. I think, like, if he made that, like, if he was commissioned to make that for a game or for a movie or something, it's very soundtrack rather than an actual release, if that makes sense. Like, as in, he did a great job, but I feel like I'm on the menu of a video game and I'm not. I just, you know, like, my screen's not working, I can't see it, do you know what I mean? But I can hear it, kind of thing. Like, or it's like if I fell asleep on the menu of a game or something, do you know what I mean? But it's just, and, you know, stuff like that kind of music is great, but this doesn't feel like a song on it as a standalone thing. It does feel like it was meant for something, like specifically meant for something like that.
Yeah.
I suppose that is definitely something that's kind of, you see in soundtrack bands like that, you know, people who are writing those kind of moodscapes and stuff. And I think you're 100% on, man. It's like, you know, if you're listening to Yes or one of those kind of bands, you need the album cover to kind of, like, to know what these guys are doing. And it's the same with this. You really need the visuals as well as the music, you know. Yeah,
like, it's great what he did, but I really feel like that should be a video and song. Like, that should encompass the two together if you're gonna take it in fully. Like,
should the likes of these artists then be played on the Metal Cell?
Fucking play it wherever you want, man. No one should.
No, I'm just throwing it out there because there is a scene there where there is a crossover.
Oh, definitely. They play festivals, like, so, like, I seen Carpenter Brut was playing at Hellfest, Percolate was playing some big festivals, and they're on, like, I seen Carpenter Brut in Barcelona, and it was like this kind of weird dancing mosh pit that was happening. It was awesome. Like, it was so much fun. It was class, yeah. So you definitely, like, there's a crossover with metalheads, like, in gaming. Resulting in this kind of music as well. So
I think even, like, if some of us aren't into it, I see no reason whatsoever not to shine the light on it. Do you know what I mean?
And that's something that's weird about metal, like that, in the sense that you know, there's certainly a lot of you know things like those horror soundtracks, like Goblin and stuff, where, like, the soundtrack's all fiddles, you know, but you see people who are at the gig moshing, you know, so it's like like metal people do have a massive appetite for that. And, you know, back in the 90s and stuff, like, bands like Pitch Shifter and The Prodigy, and, like, you know, bands who are real, you know, like, really alternative music but not kind of guitar based, was really, really big. And I'd like to see more of that in metal, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's not what's normal now either, you know. So if anyone's going to do something, you know, that's like, I'll commend them, because no one sent in any kind of track like that before, you know. So fair play for him for doing that. If more people rather than it just be, because fucking hell, I don't want to listen to any more Doom and
Yeah.
no offense to anyone, but
Yeah.
that's it. Like, you know, like put me out of my comfort zone completely with something like that. Whether I like it or not, it's good to know that it is actually happening. Like that it's not just like 4 scenes that stay away from each other. That there is more, and then someone else can hear this now and be like, "Fuck that Evan lad, he's completely wrong," which I probably am, but it's my opinion. I'm, you know, whatever. But
no, as I said,
someone else might get something great.
As I said, I definitely championed Golgotha, and I think
I think
more
Ocean
the stuff.
Puncher is one of the best names I've heard in a long time as well. I
Well,
fucking love that. Like,
I think Danielle's kind of put a different
made it
spin on
better
it.
for me. Like,
No, it's actually a really cool name. I
It's a great
actually really
name.
liked it. Yeah, it's really cool.
Okay, that's great, lads. Fair play. We got all of them in. There was nothing horrendous. So we will move on to the main topic of the night, which is record labels, bad deals and good deals. I'm wearing this top actually because I think I'll start it off with this. It's Fleet Burner. So I had him on the Smashing Skull sessions. Kevin Storm is his name. So it was a solo project, and he got in this fantastic singer from America to sing with the band. And the singer basically was into Journey and a few other rock bands. But the album is absolutely fucking brilliant, okay? So he just put up a post last week about how his album did, right? And from the period of July 2020 to December 2020, right? The digital money he made off the album was €50.51, okay? So the physical copy was 1,945, so the total royalties was €1,995.60, right? So then the deductions, so the manufacturing costs were 2,558, the marketing and promotion costs were €272.50, and mechanicals and distribution costs were 501. So that came to €3,332, which left them in the rate of €1,336, right? What he said on his posts was the pat of the honest musician, is what he termed it. So on digital rewards, he says, only 3 years' work, thousands of money invested, rave reviews has amounted to a total profit of €50. That's on digital, as I said. That's including 20,000 streams on Spotify alone. I don't think I feel the urge to write a new Fleet Burner album soon. I can rant, rave and rage, but I just wanted to share this. Physical sales for Fleet Burner, have a look. This is not including the thousands I invested from my pocket. No, this is theft. On all accounts, and we did this to ourselves, he said. I promise to never hype this anymore. Get the album now has never done anything for me. Buy the shirt has only got me into trouble. And stream it on your favorite platform. Got rave reviews and tons of people asking if I want to pay them to do an interview. If it's quiet on my socials, it's because I've lost my voice screaming into the void. I requested the label to have the rights back so I could post it online for free. So that was Kevin Storm of Fleet Burner.
that's so fucking
Depressing.
isn't it? Yeah, I think
One
as
of
well,
the
like,
nicest guys I've ever met
I
on
feel
this
for the
show,
guy, yeah.
let it be said as well.
Yeah, you got a lot. Like, I think the whole thing of labels as well now is like, with different levels of label. Like, you know, like say 10 years ago, if a band signed to something, it was like, you like a label. Like, you have a label, you must be fucking unbelievable. Whereas now, it's a totally different thing. Like, a lot of smaller labels might just be fronting a small bit of distribution, or, you know, like just helping out with a few costs or a few small things. But like, there's some bands that end up in the shittiest situation. Like, there was, I know, the first one that comes to mind is like, do you know Glassjaw?
Yeah.
Heard of him.
And this will probably be like with Roadrunner, like the amount of bands that have had serious issues with Roadrunner. But basically, like, whatever, they had like massive issues with Roadrunner, that the band nearly broke up, that when they play gigs, anytime they play any song off the first album, they're begging people to illegally download it, because they don't want any money for Roadrunner. I think what happened was, to get them out of the deal, I think it was Ross Robinson bought out their contract so he could move them to Warner Brothers. But it's funny now, because I think Warner Brothers have actually bought out Roadrunner, if I'm right. I think someone's after, or yeah, I think Warner Brothers bought out
So all that
Roadrunner.
catalog comes with them.
Yeah, so it's just like completely come back around now. Like, there's a lot of Irish bands as well. Like, I know Red Enemy, when they released their album with Media Scare did fuck all when it came to actually getting that album out. They were kind of put in the back burner. I remember seeing ages ago, Media Scare just posted like one of the songs being like, "Oh, Red Enemy, whatever," and Jordo, who was the guitarist in Red Enemy, the one comment underneath it was, "Bit late, lads." Like, you know, the lads have gone and formed the scratch since by the time that the fucking lads start sharing shit properly about it. Like, it's such a joke.
Joe?
The thing that probably, like, I found mad about that was whenever he was listing off all the stuff, the advertising and promotion costs was €200, like, or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
That's like, there's where in my mind, that's where the big problem is. You know, if you were going to make a movie nowadays, people would spend at least half the budget of the movie again promoting it, you know. And that's the problem. Like, well, it's not the only problem, but that's a huge problem with all this sort of stuff, is like what you were saying, Evan. Smaller labels are happy to bring stuff out, but they either don't want to, or they don't have the financial situation really to be able to go and properly support these people. And like, not being an arsehole here, but nobody has a God-given right to make a living out of playing music, you know, and the market is the defining factor of, you know, what syncs and what doesn't and stuff. Like, Gamma Bomb have been in 360 deals before, you know, and it is a total nightmare and stuff. But like, every single band who's ever, you know, gone and done all that sort of stuff will tell you that, like, we have that situation. You know what you were talking about, Evan, with Peaceful. We have that exact same situation with Eric, you know, where they're taking our albums offline, or they won't talk to us, etc. And they've done it to a whole bunch of albums or other bands. But you kind of have to just fucking take that as, right, this is the shit side of the business, you know? Yeah. And the good side of it is playing gigs and free beer and, you know, being creative and stuff. So I would definitely feel awful for the dude that he doesn't feel like he wants to make more music because of this. But
it's completely ripped his soul, like, and that
sucks. But like, a lot of the bands who are on Invictus and Dara's label and stuff like that, they'll just be like, we're not putting our stuff on Spotify because we can't get a fair dig. So they'll only do stuff on vinyl or tape where they know they're going to see a return. But it's a totally shit situation, and it's been going on since, you know, since day one. So
well, that's
Danielle,
it. Like, I mean, you see
think?
people. Sorry, Danielle, go away. Or go away.
Go away.
Sorry, Danielle, go away there. Will you?
Go away. Yeah, like, I suppose I don't have a whole pile of experience in this area, and not being in a band and all that. But I think it's interesting, because before, maybe a year or two ago, I would have been like what you said, Evan. If somebody got signed, I would have been like, oh my god, that's the biggest thing in the world. And now it's coming to light that getting signed isn't exactly, you haven't made it if you got signed. And yeah, it's all about, I think a lot of it's luck as well, really, isn't it?
There's different versions of being signed as well, you know, depending on the label. I think years and years ago, if you got signed, it was like, right, you're massive. Whereas now, it's not. That's not really the case. You know, there's. I remember even in college, there was one thing, like, when we were going over like things to look out for in contracts, and the one thing that, like, I remember just being like, fucking hell, I never thought of that, is like, say if you're doing, which there was a stage where people were doing a lot of like digital only releases through a label, and there would be a 10% kind of damage insurance thing. But with that's been in a lot of contracts for years and years and years. And basically what that is like, if you're shipping off CDs or vinyls or whatever, and some of them break, there's like a 10% clause that the label have to take back. But if you're doing like a digital only release, there's no reason to have this thing that they can come back and take that. But it's just left in it because it's just like, I don't know if it still is now, like, but there was a big while where that's just an industry standard, and there was a lot of bands that did get kind of caught with that. Like, you know, they're just more so excited to see. It's like, oh yeah, you know, we're signed to a label now, and it's like, well, they're just robbed some money off you for a thing that doesn't exist, just in case it breaks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's nuts.
That's
like the percentages, it's like 10% of bands, you know, who've been around for, you know, a year or two or whatever, will end up going on to be signed. And out of those 10% of bands who do get signed, 10% of those will end up either making money or making a living or whatever, you know. It's not like in the music industry, most of the people who make a living do it through, you know, working in advertising or, you know, whatever. It's not really, and I guess that's the fucked up thing for me, is that, you know, how are bands going to continue? Like, why would I choose to make 10 or 15 grand a year playing in a band when I could, you know, have a decent job, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, the whole thing of becoming a millionaire and buying a swim pool and stuff.
Yeah, I was just looking at it from.
It's gone.
Do you know, we were on about Macedon there, and the standard royalty deal, we'll say. I just went at that and looked at the figures, you know. For standard royalty deal with a label, the company gives them, as you all know, a chunk of money that'll go into their bank account in advance, we'll say. That keeps them financially afloat while they record the album. In addition to fronting the money, the label gets the own recordings on that album, known as the master recordings, along with any revenue those masters generate through sales and streams, right? So I just worked it out for, we'll say, Macedon, we'll say, as an example. So the label gives the artist 100,000 advance, and it costs, say, 20,000 to record the album. So that means the artist has an unrecouped balance of 120,000. With a royalty rate of 20%, their album has to earn 600,000 before they break even. Yep. Right? From that point on, the artist begins to earn, and if they do, like, they earn 20 cents on every euro the album makes. So 120,000 covers their advance and recording costs, and the rest, 480,000, goes to the record label. So, like, then if you go digital, right? So using the above example that I've given you there, an artist's album would need to generate 100 million streams across the platforms to make 500,000 black. You know? That's
incredible. And I know Bill Kelleher was like doing odd jobs and shit. Like, he was painting houses during.
He's a landlord. That's how he's making coin at the moment. And like, if I don't know if any follow like that Macedon yard sale, he's constantly selling like bits of, like, he bought me a signed Macedon vinyl for my birthday, and it's Bill who sends it out. Like, he'll sell his old guitars, his old pedals, anything for a bit of coin. And he's a big advocate of, when you've made it, it doesn't mean that you're going to make money off this for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and I think
not at all. The bass player out of Testament got fired a couple of years ago, Greg Christensen, and he's the bass player who was in Testament from the start. He was a founding member, and he was getting paid 175 quid a gig, you know. So it's like there's a lot of people in this country who are working and probably making a lot more than that a day, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a totally messed up situation like that, you know. And I think, if you want to do it, like, Macedon are a huge band, you know, but it's one of those things, I guess, where if they're on tour and you've got merch money coming in and, you know, stuff, it's easy to sort of say, right, here's how much I'm making a day. But if you're not, you know, and you know, you're just sitting in the house, you wouldn't want to be waiting around for royalty checks to be coming in saying, no, you know.
Yeah, and with that royalty deal, the label has no claim on the artist's touring revenue, merch sales and sponsorship money, or anything else that isn't directly tied to recordings. So that's good for them. But I mean, where a lot of bands fall is that, we'll say, if they owe money on their first album, the record company then
gets a second
gets some. Oh yeah, we'll do a second album, so they have to earn way more, and all that debt from the first album is transferred onto the second album.
Yep.
And
That's
that
very
gets
usual.
steeper.
But like as I said, whenever we signed with Eric donks ago, it was a very done deal at that time to have 360 deals, and that meant that Eric were in charge of producing our merch, and they did all that. And then it went one step further after we left them, where they were signing new bands and getting 50% of their merch and 20% of the gig fees. So
from the gig fees as well, like
nuts. Like
so
it's
a
just
360 deal, Joe,
totally
is the 360 deal is the label is entitled to a portion of the money earned for everything an artist does.
Recording contract, publishing contract, merchandising contract, and then they subsequently tried adding on, live revenue as well. But it's just like, but like these people who think up these things are trying to figure out how they're going to make a living. They're not worried about if your band's going to be around in 5 minutes or whatever. That's not the concern. It's more how do we make sure that we're milking this cow as much as possible.
It's the same. That's what Roadrunner do a lot. Like Roadrunner are known for trying to get a quick buck out of a band because they have their two cash cows, which is Slipknot and Nickelback. Like the amount of bands that have come through Roadrunner just been like, fuck that label. Like,
yep.
And I know now with them being bought by Warner Brothers that there's really only like 4 big major labels now because they've bought everything. Everything's a subsidiary of something. It's only when you get down to like, when you have independent labels like Curse Monk and Invictus again, it's like those are the kind of lads now that will, I presume, I've never worked with them, but they're the lads that will have more of a. They're not. Well, I'm hoping they don't. I know. I've heard great things about Curse Monk. Anyway, that is like they're not going to be like they're not going to try take you for fucking everything you have because chances are you don't really have anything. Do you know what I mean?
No, but by the same token, they also don't have the ability to pay for you to get on a Megadeth tour. And that's kind of that's where like having a big label is important. Like that, as in if you want to go to America. Like it's going to cost $20,000 for visas and flights and sorting out the van while you're over there and stuff. So like there's definitely a lot to be said for having a big label involved. But the problem with like the bigger like someone like Invictus or Curse Monk or even Underground Movement, they're talking about selling a couple of thousand vinyls, 12 inches and making a profit. And their system works really well. Whenever you go like X steps above that, and like so say whoever it is, like say Silosis or whatever, and you need to sell 15,000 albums or it's not going to recoup, it just becomes a whole different thing because the market for that sort of thing changes a lot, and like new metal trends will come and go. Like re-thrash was in for a while, doom is big, whereas like smaller labels can concentrate on what they know their audience or people who are fans of the label will like,
They can hone in on it, like, totally. Absolutely.
Which is great.
Yeah, but like, I think for the likes of Roadrunner, they always traded on their name, so like if you were an artist that originally signed for them, you're getting on good tours with them, you're getting their presence, you're getting their skill set, they know how to market you properly, they get you on radio play, they're distributing your physical product. But that has all changed now with digital. So like with social media and everything like that, a band can fucking certainly do all that stuff themselves if it's digital. So that cuts out the fucking record label a lot.
Well, it's a weird thing that like what used to be a big, huge plus of having a label would be having the like a PR agent and like people.
Yeah, I was actually just about to say
get
PR
you into Krang or get you into Metal Hammer and stuff.
Yeah.
And a big thing that's changed in the last couple of years is that still is a kind of important thing, but like a huge thing for labels now is lobbying Spotify to get on the playlists and stuff like that. Because they know that if they can get their bands on certain playlists on Spotify, they're more likely to start.
Guaranteed amount of plays, like.
And like whenever we had a charting on Billboard with our last album, and that was all due to Spotify plays. None of that was to do with any physical units. So we didn't even get a report back saying you've sold X. That was just you're streaming this many a month, so that equates to this, you know, which isn't real, but you know, that's how it works nowadays.
Yeah. But I mean, with the 360 deal, I was just looking at that, the figures on it, like, we'll say an artist will get 500,000, right, just say a really big band, right, advance to make 5 albums, right? So with a 20% royalty rate, right, 100,000 advance for 3 concert tours, and that'll be a 70-30 profit split in the artist's favour, and a 500,000 advance on merch sales with an 80-20 profit split in the band's favour. So if the label gives an artist 100,000 touring advance and they earned 150,000 touring, you think the artist would just pocket the share of the extra 50 grand. But these cross collateralized deal, the artist wouldn't get the money unless they've completely recouped all their other advances. So if they still owe the label 500 grand from their advance on merch sales, the extra touring money will be counted towards recouping that debt instead, you know. So
there's an amazing documentary, and now I'm not really into the band, 30 Seconds to Mars have this documentary called, I think it's like Attract or Artifact or something, but basically what that is, I can't remember what label it is they were on, but they had like, I don't know, it was like a 4 or 5 album deal, and this whole documentary is about them writing and recording this new album while also trying to get out of the deal that they're on, because I think it was like after 7 years they have the right to be able to terminate it, but they ended up like, you know, so it's just like they want to write the best music that they can, they don't want to release it on this label, you know, and there's parts being like, you know, there's one part in the documentary where, you know, there's all this legal stuff they still have to write, and they just get a call being like, we'll say it's Warner Brothers or whatever, but they just get a call during it being like, by the way, we know that you're filming a documentary, we own every note that's played that you filmed, and during this, if you release this documentary, we own that documentary regardless of if it's about you trying to get away from us. So it's this like ridiculous, and like, you know, at the same time trying to go through all this, writing an album, and the whole thing is, because it's their last album, once the album comes out, they're gone, they can do their thing. It's like going through things of being like, if I write the most amazing album I've ever made now, and I'm just going to get fucked on it, or do I risk my career and just be like, we're going to make the worst album we possibly can, which the label probably won't. But then how do you come out of that being like, this is the shittiest thing ever? Do you know what I mean? Like, they end up getting so stuck in it, like, just that. I think that documentary is such a good look at like the high level of a label. Like, I mean, if I feel from like fucking poor bastards. Like,
have you heard of the net profit deal, Joe?
No, what's the net profit deal?
That's the third kind of deal you can get. In a net profit deal, the label pays an artist a cash advance, puts all the money to record their album, fronts the cost of marketing and promoting it, all of which is recoupable. Once the album starts making money, the label takes 100% of those earnings until they've recouped all the money they fronted the artist. From that point on, the artist and the label split the net profits from the artist's album, and the split typically ranges from 40 to 60 in the label's favour.
That's incredibly common. Like, that's generally the way. Like, see, the idea of an advance, like, the days of record companies handing people checks are gone. Like, you know, what they do is they'll pay for your studio time, or they'll pay for artists to do artwork, or, you know, videos, etc. But like, having an advance doesn't necessarily mean someone can go and buy a car. Like, it just means that they're going to pay for everything. But as you said, all that comes out of your split. So like, whenever you're in the process of recouping, so if your royalty rate is 15%, you know, on every album, all that stuff like marketing, recording costs, etc., all comes out of your end until it's recouped, and then it's a 50-50 split, you know. Yeah,
that's the net profit one.
But they're very hard. Generally,
it says here they're very hard to get these days.
Well, I think probably, like, it's probably hard to get because, you know, that seems like a shit deal, but that's the good deal on the table, you know. Whatever's being offered is shitter than that. So.
Yeah,
But
and of course,
I think it's a weird situation. Like the internet is like, look at what we're doing now. You know, being able to discuss these brand new bands who otherwise would be trying to sell their demos at local gigs and stuff. There's loads of brilliant things about the internet, and I, for one, think that Spotify and all those kind of royalty things are a total rip-off. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, so some of those bands who are selling millions of streams and getting 50p, etc. But being devil's advocate about it, as music consumers ourselves, like we have been so long in the age of, you know, before Spotify was big, it was YouTube, and there was no money going to anyone, you know. So if it's doing anything, it's moving in the right direction now. But I suppose would anybody pay 40 quid a month for Spotify? You know, anything like near a normal royalty rate? I think most people would say that's too much.
Chance. Like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We opened Pandora's box and now everything is for free. And, you know, I remember thinking that this is great. You know, I'm going to save so much money on buying DVDs and CDs. And, you know, I don't have any extra money. I don't know where all that money went.
They're all gone on free trials that I forgot to cancel. Like,
But like the solution in relation to this whole thing, if a band that we all know do get signed to a record label, is just have a good fucking lawyer to have a fucking chat with. Don't go in blindly.
Like,
don't rush in and sign your fucking music away straight
just because
away. You know?
can say you're signed doesn't mean to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you got to ask yourself, like, what if the whole thing as well that I remember getting advice is like, if people start coming to you looking to sign you, that doesn't mean jump on it straight away. You're instantly being like, okay, if one label is starting to see now that, you know, there's something about this band that they can make money off, like, unless you're getting some amazing deal, you know, don't get me wrong, there's still amazing labels out there, like Church Road in the UK that used to be, well, actually no, they didn't used to be Holy Roar. Justine went over to Holy Roar, or from Holy Roar. But it's like, just, you know, wait, like, pick the right one, not just the one for the sake of it, because you don't want to be in a position where you're so used to writing, like, in your own time, you know, how it works for you, and then all of a sudden you have a deadline. Like, that's a huge thing that bands just aren't used to. Like, you know, if you sign something, I've heard great labels that are kind of like, they won't be like pressuring you for the next one, you know, but a lot of them will be like, yeah, I need this finished by Friday. Do you know what I mean? Like 2 weeks. Then you're put in a position where you're kind of like, shit, okay, well, I just have to get it done, which can be beneficial, I guess, but
it is preying on young people, you know, like old guys, like whoever Exodus, whenever they're making a new deal, they're not making the same stupid mistakes they made when they were 20.
Yeah.
Whenever we signed with Earache, we did like they gave us like a whole bunch of like albums to destroy on tour. They were like, oh yeah, we're doing this whole thing where it's like, screw new metal, so here's like all these new metal albums, you can smash them on stage with a hammer or whatever, you know. It was like some sort of thing. And we were like, oh, so cool. We didn't think that, like, you know, 12 years later we'd be one of the bands that they were like smashing their CDs on stage, you know.
They're
that's just because you're young. Like, whenever you're young, you don't realize that you're making, you know, a lifelong commitment. And as I said, being in that situation now where you're like, oh, like our most popular albums aren't on, you know, Spotify or aren't on YouTube and stuff, that's just directly a result of us being naive and shit. But again, to play the devil's advocate, Evan, it's like, yeah, good sense says don't sign a deal like that, you know. But whenever you're young, you're just like, well, this is my chance to go on tour with like bands and make albums and stuff. So you go and do it, and like all those bands have all similar, very very similar stories, like Exodus or whoever. They all got screwed over in one way or another, you know.
Do I remember ye signed to Prosthetic from like a fucking tweet or something? What was the...
Yeah, well, I can't remember.
What was that?
Billy, our singer, works in social media, and he used to like handle Guinness and Pato and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. He was doing something on Twitter, and like I think he might have been given off about Earache or something like that.
I think
like,
that, yeah.
like he like tagged EJ from Prosthetic and was like, "Sure, why don't you sign us then?" And like he was like, "Yeah, all right."
And that was it then. Like,
That was it. But again, like that's one of those things, isn't it? Just where that was probably just because he was aware of. It wasn't as if he was just being like, "Yeah, I'll take a punt on these."
why not?
People. No idea who they are, like, you know.
And how would you compare from different labels? If you can even say, like, you know, like comparing like Eric to Prosthetic or any other labels that you were on, like in the growth of what was like the best and worst parts of each.
They're like Prosthetic are the best because like they're there to give you good advice, you know, and try and, you know, they really understand what's going on now. We were with like AFM for years, who are a German label, and there's loads of labels like them. They're like a really good label, big, huge following in Europe and stuff like that. But like they have so many important bands on the label, you know, there's no way that they had enough time for worrying about you know, what we were doing. You know, worry about what Onslaught are doing and then think about us after that. So they were like 2 hands off, you know, whereas Eric were 2 hands on. You know, Eric would be like, "We're renting you this cottage to live in when you're making this album," or, you know, blah blah blah. But they were also like, they were using the band as a vehicle to sell the rest of their stuff. Everything that Eric does is based on trying to monetize Napalm Death and Brutal Truth and Carcass and all that sort of stuff.
That's it. They all have their cash cows. Like.
So, like, basically, like, going beyond doing reissues and stuff, Eric would, like, sponsor a tour in America, you know, with Bonded by Blood, or in Europe with Bonded by Blood or whatever. And they would bring an entire, like, trailer full of T-shirts. And, like, not Gamma Bomb T-shirts.
Just Eric artists, like,
and they would have, like, instead of having a merch stall, they would have like an Eric stall at the bottom of the gig.
Fucking hell.
But like the dudes in, like, I know Barney from Napalm Death, and he was like, "I have a private detective," and he follows them around, you know, being all like, "Yeah, you know, we went to your secret warehouse where there's 1 million, you know, Carcass T-shirts in it." But they don't give a shit. Like, it's like, you know, like the Sun newspaper, whenever they hear they're being sued, they're not like, "Oh my God, we're being sued." They're just like, "Yeah,
put it in the pile." Yeah,
let's join the queue. There's like many people suing us. So I think it's like what you were saying earlier, Richie. Like, there's so many different sorts of deals out there and stuff, and the younger and more naive you are, the more likely you are to make a boo boo. Like, my favorite movie is Night of the Living Dead, and the guy who brought that out had Night of the Living Dead copyright, you know, or no, it was called like Night of the Flesh Eaters copyright. And then they changed the title to Night of the Living Dead. And they forgot to put the copyright notice back on it. So the movie came out, and like, he never got 1 penny for it. Like,
oh, you know? Jesus.
And the only person to blame is like just being young, like, you know.
Yeah. Sometimes hunger can, like, and in saying this, like, I'm not being like fuck labels, like, Jesus. Do you know,
no, I mean,
there's some really good labels. Like, I'm trying to think of ones that, like. And you know what? There's a lot of labels that I follow. Like, I follow the label and I'll find bands through them. Like Big Scary Monsters in the UK, Church Road. Like, and some of the stuff they put out is like, nah, not for me. But a lot of them I'll just be like, get obsessed with. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they have a certain sound, which, like, I always find what I love doing is, like, if there's not really with like major labels, but like, you know, small, like mid-level bands, I guess we'll say, like, you know, they'll, whatever label they're on, I'll check out their label. Like when we interviewed Grumster on the Skull Sessions, we started checking out like loads more bands on Asian Man Records. Found loads of stuff that I really liked, you know, and then you start kind of going down the rabbit hole of like following a label for a sound almost.
Yes.
That was definitely, like, Richie, I'm sure, and like Danielle, you'd probably say the same. When you were growing up, listening to either like 80s thrash or 90s new metal and stuff, there was labels that you could rely on. If you liked this band, there's going to be other bands like that on their label, you know?
Yeah, Roadrunner. That's the first band I ever heard of, or first label I ever heard of. And that thing that
I was probably the same, yeah.
Yeah, it was the first label I'd been like, oh, that's the label I want to be on when I'm a famous guitarist.
Yeah. And they were very much like, you might remember this, Danielle, that had like Roadrunner All-Stars and stuff that would get all the bands and
Gonna say
labels.
that,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah, they would do
that
that.
I
was
actually watched
such
that
good-
recently again. Like, yeah.
Such
And
good
like,
marketing, yeah.
Yeah, and Combat did that in the 80s as well, you know, where they would like make an album with guys from Anthrax or, you know, or whatever other bands were on Combat at the time, you know.
Noise Records in Germany.
Yeah.
Is Germany Noise were you
Yeah.
guarantee
Richie,
great fucking-
why don't you start a label?
Yeah, that would be great.
That'd be tough.
Yeah.
Do you want me to get old in front of your eyes? Because I feel that fucking way anyway. But
Well, all we have to do is watch.
just
All we have to
speed
do is
it
just
all up
watch
further.
the first episode of the Metal Cell, and then just turn it to this one. Like,
I'm imagining
Instant.
that, you know, in the first episode it'd be like a flashback where like Richie would have like thick black curly hair, like
yeah,
it's all just, you know, gone the way of the dodo.
Coming down my nose.
absolutely ripped. Like,
He's already lost his sight.
Thanks, Danielle.
Yeah.
Fucking 3 years. Jesus Christ. Yeah, 3 years in 14th of March.
Fuck.
Imagine that.
So what?
Wow.
What
You
day
need
is
to,
it?
we've
4
been
days.
deciding this for you. You need to do a festival, Richie. You need to put on like an outdoor gig in your back garden or something.
Yeah, that's it.
If you book them, they will come.
Yeah.
Well, we were going to do something for your birthday, but COVID ruined it. Like,
Ruined it, yeah. 50th
Yeah.
gone, for fuck's sake. Like, then you get to fucking celebrate it with fucking metal. Ugh.
yeah, that's the worst thing about COVID. Like, Richie didn't get his birthday.
Yeah. Absolute worst.
But we're just getting back to labels. Like, any band in Ireland, like, we'll give it, like, I mean, Paranoid Beast were a great help there with getting albums out for
it was
Partalon.
Subtle Beast is what they did.
Subtle Beast, yeah. Roger, of course, Monk. I mean, if you're just a band like Tombs, how bad they got a release out through Roger as well, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
I love
so,
that though. Do you know, like, you're seeing a lot more bands, even that like will release just a demo, will be under some label. Like, I know there's like Dublin hardcore lads like with Goon and what's the fucking label they're on now? Like there's like Nuclear Blast in Wales, like they're releasing a lot of Irish band stuff, like because I know Tapes seem to do
Sudden
really
Strike as well up in Northern
Sudden
Ireland.
Strike,
isn't it?
yeah, absolutely, yeah. Like these kind of labels, fucking fantastic. Like, you know, and I haven't heard a bad word about them. I haven't like really asked about deals or anything they're doing, but you know, like it's just that little bit of faith to have, being like that bands aren't going to
the
get.
idea, even that there's local stuff like that going on.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely,
is hugely
yeah.
important, like, you know?
Because I mean, all those lads, Roger, remember in the interview we had with him, Danielle, like very down to earth and realistic as well. You know that.
Legend, yeah.
He'd be someone I feel you could actually just message him and be like, look, would you be into this? Like the way he was talking about it, he's like, bands have got onto him and he'll listen to it and be like, I want to put that out. Do you know what I mean? It's not like...
And he knows full well that, you know, if they're really good, they'll move on. He's realistic enough to realise that,
like,
you know.
There's a great story in Thin Lizzy's book that whenever they originally signed with there's a Decca was the label that they originally signed to, who signed the Stones and stuff. But like Decca had an office in Dublin, so like Lizzy had been going around for a year or two, and they went down to the Decca office, and you know, the guy in Decca said, you know, yes, we're the office for the London company, but we can't make decisions like that. You know, if you want to make any decisions like that, you're gonna have to go to London. And that was the beginning of like bands taking the Holyhead ferry over, and like all those bands who kind of followed, everyone from like, you know, them and Therapy or Asher, they all made their name in England, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the brilliant thing what you guys are saying, that the fact that there's small metal labels and podcasts and, you know, like recording studios where you can make a really good sounding demo in Ireland, like that's huge. That really is like it's a massive step forward, because certainly 15 years ago when we started, there was no good studios in Ireland anywhere, and there weren't any. There maybe like one or two little punk labels or underground movement and stuff, but certainly not like people who are going to give a chance on some shit sounding band. A band with a shit sounding demo.
I think PR really will come into play a lot more with
social media and everything.
Yes, like, you know, if you have a release, say you have everything ready to go, and it's not like if you're doing it with a label or not. I think it's like as long as you're getting it to the right ears. Do you know what I mean? Like, and PR I think is a huge thing for that. Like, if you have to get a company, like, I think one of the big things is like bands knowing their limits, of knowing what the DIY side of it, and knowing when, right, we've got ourselves to this point.
Yes. Yeah.
Do we want to invest now to get ourselves to the next point? And I think with like PR, you're not doing, it's not like a label. You're just doing like, I don't know, like maybe a 3, go the fuck away from me, fly. But like, like it's a 3-month deal, and you're paying, depending on, like, it could be a lot. Do you know what I mean? It could be a lot, but you're then putting yourself in that position to maybe be seen by some of the mid-level or better level labels, that you could make the decision then on what to do. It really is just about getting your music out there.
I agree 100%.
And take drugs as much as possible, like.
And again, it depends on where you are.
Yeah, I suppose as well, like,
I mean, if you're an Irish band and you're looking for a PR label, in Ireland there's really one option and one option only. But if you go over to England and get maybe 5 or 6 PR labels, you have a good choice there. And again, how much you're willing to pay out of your budget to go that extra step for that PR. That's the question, isn't it? What's your budget?
It's like kind of, if you kind of lay, that's it. Like, I think budgeting at a release, and obviously as you're going, there's going to be things that come on, but it's kind of like not to be afraid of. There is going to be more costs that come on, but once you get it out, it's kind of like, is it going to be worth it? Is someone going to freak and be like, oh, here, fuck this, I don't see what I mean? Joe's like, no, I'm not giving it. No, fuck this. I don't. The label was supposed to take this, and I'm looking.
Little size ass there, man. Fuck Joe. What the hell, man?
Look what it says on my beer. Laser Quest.
What's that on pineapple? That's unreal. That is unreal.
Fuck me, Joe.
What were you going to say there, Danielle? Either I interrupted you or something.
We're just admiring your arse. If we could put my mustache in your arse, we'd be fucking unstoppable, man.
One on each cheek.
That would be fantastic.
That's what the people. We'll do that for the next one. Like, when like the music is starting to come in, like boom, boom, boom. It's like just like slowly fading. Like, it starts with that and just fades out, and you can gradually see us. Like, I'll throw that together.
What they want.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I decide what they want.
Yeah.
Anyway, Danielle, what do you think? Are we just waffling a load of shit here or what?
Well, like, I suppose we've been saying how great it is that there's so many smaller labels for smaller bands, and that it's great that there's good quality demos coming out, great quality demos even, but that's kind of adding to the influx of kind of songs and bands that are out there. So as a consumer, you've so much to wade through to find something you like. It's all coming at you. So I suppose that's where the PR comes in, for you to stand out from the crowd, because I think that's as great as it is that we have all these options. I find sometimes sit down and go, what am I going to listen to? There's so much to listen to.
Do you find yourself being like targeted by marketing, as in, like, if you like certain bands' posts, will you see more stuff of that nature? Because that's one of the things that I find nuts these days, is how specific.
I definitely do.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like,
if you only like had Daddy's brown sauce and didn't like HP, you would only see like HP.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, it was pure weird. I was just chatting to my housemate. He brews beer, and he was just telling me about his kit, and just looking at my phone. Give him a shout out.
What does he do?
Ray, Emma's boyfriend. He just
moonshine, like.
Yeah, no, it's just for himself. He doesn't sell or anything like that. But
greedy bastard. Fair play to him, like.
But yeah, like an advert came up then a few days later for kegs, like home brew kegs, and sure, I've never looked that up in my life. So yeah, it's definitely an algorithm that feeds you what you want to see.
Yeah, they're listening to us, like.
They are, definitely. But I do find Spotify good in that sense, that sometimes I'll listen to something.
Discover and stuff.
Discover Weekly on a Monday, starting work on a Monday here, turning it up, being like, what am I going to get? You know,
sometimes it's a pile of shite.
Man, this week I was nearly in tears. I was so excited, and everything was shite. Like, yeah.
Or like when we had Roger on, or Richie had Roger on, and afterwards I went and started listening to Nomadic Rituals. Became obsessed with them. They put up a playlist. Yeah, Billy put up a playlist called Sonic Doom. I started listening to that. Got a rake of bands off of it. So yeah, it's feeding me what I want.
And like that algorithm works so much better than, like, you know, the Facebook one of, you could be listening to, I don't know, whatever, Nuclear Assault, and then the next thing it suggests is something totally different. You know, that is the good thing about Spotify. Like that is they do try and tailor it. But then I suppose maybe do you think you get pigeonholed a little bit like that if you only play thrash? They're never going to suggest you listen to Iron Maiden kind of thing or whatever.
It does happen to a lot of lads that are that way, is the answer.
Richie, I have to ask, is that a Indian Joey Belladonna?
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
That is amazing
I
stuff.
thought it was massive. My depth perception there, I thought that was really far away. I was like, he's not going to reach that. Like,
I'll have to have a special Anthrax episode, and you can wear that. We'll just
absolutely.
That would be great.
Isn't it a thing of beauty, isn't it?
It is. You are. Yeah, you are. Do you know, speaking of algorithms, like, I love a band called Turnstile, and like, I just, like, if I'm in work, I'll keep putting on like just Turnstile tunes, but I'll have it on YouTube. And there's been so many times that, like, do you know the ads that play at the start? It's all for hardware shit. Like, just because I'm searching Turnstile, they're just like, right, hardware stuff, and they're like, these nails can bend. And I'm like, yeah, fuck it. Someone needs to be fired.
What's this on YouTube? Is it?
Yeah, like, just because they're seeing I'm searching Turnstile, even though it's like a hardcore band, they're just taking the word Turnstile, and like I'll often get like hardware ads on Facebook because they all link together through your email.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you don't know me, man. I can barely put my fucking shoes on. Like,
but Joe, your record label, have they control over running, let's say, your stuff on YouTube, or is that down to the band?
Generally, it depends kind of what the deal is. You know, label to label. Some labels have like super active YouTubes. You know,
they'll upload the video to their label.
Let's upload it onto ours because we have X thousand followers, or, you know, other labels that have less of, you know, a strong YouTube presence won't really care about that. But it's like what you were saying there briefly, to go back. That whole thing about algorithms and stuff is, again, that's part of what like the new PR is like whenever these labels are trying to convince Spotify to put people on the playlists. That's because they know if you're on playlists with Nuclear Assault, then it'll be suggested to be played after someone listens to that, you know? So really,
absolutely,
that's kind of the way it's going. But, you know, I was trying to think earlier on about like historic heavy metal deals and stuff, you know, as in things that were like a huge thing at the time. And there was like a really famous one about Manowar signing a record contract in their own blood.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know who they were signing to and stuff, but like they were all like cutting each other's palms, and they had like a quill and stuff like that. Like, you know, I think
binding, like
it's like a flair for the dramatic, you know.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Maybe it wasn't even dramatic. Like, Richie, I'm sure you heard about like when Iron Maiden sang the EMI, like they had got like the biggest, you know, advance that a metal band had ever got to go on tour, and etc. You know,
what was the Iron Maiden signing where they all turned up in Germany and there was some fucking, they were wearing.
Oh God!
What was that?
That was like a record release party for one of the Blaze Bayley albums, and they had like a bunch of midgets dressed like Hitler, like
fucking Maiden,
just like dwarfish or small people.
I'm telling you.
To be bit more PC about it. But yeah, like I suppose you can't really differentiate between saying PC if you're talking about either a small person or a dwarf dressed as Adolf Hitler, really. So it's like, that goes right out the window once you bring Hitler in.
And you brought up a great subject there, that
It's like cleaning your shoes before you walk in the mud.
There's no more mad fucking record announcements and rolling out fucking midgets or
like, you know, million album deals like that. You know, whenever you heard about things like that, where like I think whenever Anthrax
10 album deals, like, you know.
Anthrax got like a million or like $2 million for like one of their deals, and they're like, oh my god, like this is nuts. Like it's just.
I don't think Metallica ever got caught up in that, did they?
Sorry?
I don't think Metallica ever got caught up in that bullshit, did they?
Well, when Metallica were with Elektra, where they were signed to Elektra, they had a massive they went to court with them to get their rights to their music back. Yeah, that was a huge thing.
Well, I think that was because they'd signed that deal kind of same as Iron Maiden, basically, where there was a clause in it saying after 35 years you'll get the rights to the masters back, because it seemed like so far into the future and stuff. But like when Metallica negotiated their deal with Elektra back in like 1984, they had already signed up a management deal with the guys who managed Def Leppard and AC/DC, so like they weren't walking in sucking their thumbs or anything. The guy who brought out Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning had a massive deal with Metallica and stuff like that, and you know, Q-Prime were able to just go
flag,
in and shoot some bucks at him, give him a couple $1 million and be like, okay, go away.
Well, that was under one flag in Europe, wasn't it?
Under One Flag was the like subsidiary of Music for Nations.
Yeah,
so like Under One Flag was the one that like Reanimator and like a lot of English or like Nuclear Assault and stuff were on them as well.
I thought you said Rihanna there.
I thought as well. I was like, it's like fair play to her. Like,
she's got a secret heavy metal past. That would be a great episode sometime. Like, you know, people who have like secret metal histories, like Michael Bolton or whatever, where they like made metal albums. And
Christopher Lee, where he's released metal as well. Yeah.
Fucking yes, like. But do you know what I'm like with labels is I don't like 10 Ton Slug aren't signed to anyone.
No.
I feel like they'd be the kind of lads now that if whatever label, like, because I'm sure they definitely, like, there's no one not knocking at their door, you know. But I'm sure that like they'd be the type of band now that whoever they assign to, I'm like, they know what they're well aware. Like, you know, there's a good few bands like I know Baylor have the album coming out. I know whatever they do with it like is going to be well thought out and kind of
you know, as well just jumps.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's people that I'm like, you know, you'll have put the thought and effort into this. It's not just like I'm very surprised 10 Ton Slug have done everything. They've done everything completely independently, because I'm sure they've gotten offers. I'll have to ask Sean. Like,
no, they have. They've done everything by themselves. Yeah, 100%. But the new release now will be interesting. You know, what's the distribution going to be with it? Because there will be a lot of interest in it. A fucking shitload. Lads, you're around the fucking 10 months behind now at this stage.
I think a lot of people are in that kind of COVID thing, and I suppose labels are no different. You know, they either want something to come out right now while people are sitting around and have money burning a hole in their pocket, or they're saying, don't bring something out until you can capitalize on it, you know, with gigs and stuff. But,
yeah, sure, Joe. I've talked to you about this. You know,
let's not go down the same thing again, lads. But there's a lot of hours I've spent editing with this conversation, and the two of you just drunk as lords going on about it and going.
But even like you're getting bands like Every Time I Die that have their album, they've released 3 tracks off it, but 2 of the members are doing do you know that cameo thing?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of bands doing that just to be like did like a.
I think that's where a lot of people make like huge amount. Like Matt Heffy from Trivium, is that his name?
He does his street, Heffy or Heffy,
Like he makes way more money from doing that than he does being in a band. You know.
Yeah, Greg Reynolds, the drummer Straight from the Path, is doing fucking great.
How does he make money from it? Just through streaming?
He basically play games online or, you know, do guitar solos and stuff, and like loads of like my friend from Exciter does that, and all from Evil and stuff. So like I think the idea is that basically, same as like Viper from Hardy Bucks.
I love it,
like,
man. The first lockdown, I was all over them.
to get the stream, and then people are like donating $1 or $2 at a time. But
I've donated money just for him to say certain things to Viper, like, and it fucking makes me laugh so much. Like,
I've missed this now. Sorry, are you on about Twitch?
Yeah. So people play guitar on it, or people play games on it. And they basically sponsor you. So like someone in the chat will be send you $25 and say, play the guitar solo from the Four Horsemen. So he's like, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah,
that's right. Okay. I thought it was just strictly gaming and maybe the odd
anything you want to stream. Like people have like the hard times again with Every Time I Die. Some of the guys from Every Time I Die have watched some of their old DVDs and like watched it back live with a chat, just kind of laughing at themselves. Stuff like that.
Filmmakers have done it for audio commentaries on movies.
Yeah, on DVDs. Yeah, the audio commentary. It's that kind of thing. It
the whole idea behind this, man, is that like that there's the concept of fans having goodwill towards bands. So like maybe everyone who we're talking with here tonight is like me. I don't really have any use for CDs, because I'm on a phone and stuff. So it's like you want to support a band, but you like using Spotify because it's easy. So if you have goodwill towards, Evan's band or whatever, you're more likely to, with prompting, buy a T-shirt or donate money to Twitch or etc. etc. So I think that's what it's all about, is trying to figure out. And like that's the great thing about all this stuff is this is all independent of labels, and fuck knows, Richie, like there could be the kind of thing in 10 years where that'll be part of the contract saying you must do this on Twitch every month.
What I'm just going.
Anything you do every week or whatever,
Yeah.
Fucking hell! So that's another stream of money for bands potentially is to get on Twitch and, as I said, just become a puppet to what people ask for.
I would love to see like one where it's just like Mortis sitting there in a chair being grumpy, or Danzig sitting there eating like Weetabix or whatever he does.
An ASMR or something where he's
that'd be great. Like imagine you could pay people to do that. Like I'd pay like $250 to watch like I don't know fucking Jacoby Shaddux like sitting there
from fucking Papa Roach, like
sit and read the the Mario Brothers movie novelization or something.
I love it,
doesn't it? I think the idea is that you're a fan of whatever band and you want to interact with them in some way. So
and it's a humanizing thing, and then you almost feel like you have some kind of relationship with them. Like there's a lot of people like
can you not do that on FaceTime Live, but you're making no money, so you just go to Twitch to make money then?
It's more the content that you're actually putting up on, I think. Is like with Twitch now, like there's Craig Reynolds, who's the drummer for Stray from the Path, and he does the Downbeat podcast, but now he started doing Twitch stuff where he's playing drums, people ask him questions, but man, like this dude will, like, if someone asks something, he'll just rip into them sometimes, being like, and he'll rip into himself. And like there was one thing he was like, if I get a certain amount of like followers or whatever it is on Twitter, I'll do a full stream as normal, dressed as a woman. And he did it recently, and like shaved completely. His girlfriend did his makeup, and like he'll put it up on YouTube then, just being like, sexy hardcore girl, like one of those like reacts to Anika Niles drumming, like just taking the piss out of the whole thing. And I love that. Like I absolutely love that. He completely humanizes everything.
I think maybe what it was though, like, see at the very start of this whole process, like or whatever, with like Led Zeppelin, probably didn't want to have to do whatever it was. They were like, I don't have to like try and beat the drum for my own album. So that's where the idea of PR and stuff became so important. Was you had uncooperative artists who were like, you go and promote the Iron Maiden album,
let me do what I need to do,
because I don't want to have to talk to everyone, or I don't want to have to
play, like
so like that's it. Like there is definitely a conversation to be had about that, where it's like, well, what do you think then, Danielle? It's like, in one way you're doing this
Gonna get a can and take a piss.
to promote the band, but in another way you're also doing it by necessity to kind of prostitute yourself a little bit, aren't you? Like,
Yeah, and I suppose as well the other thing is it going to fit in with the band's kind of vibe and message?
yes,
Like,
totally.
yeah, you're not going to have a Norwegian death metal band who's sitting there playing Pokemon or something. You know, it's not going to work.
No.
So you have to keep in with the tone and the message of the band as well, or then are you going to have rogue members of a band being like, I need money, I'm going to go on Twitch and do this, and people are like, you're ruining the band, you know?
Yeah, you're ruining, because it's like, you know, whenever you see some death metal bands and there's like 3 of them wearing corpse paint and then there's 2 other guys who aren't, like, where they've never been able to solve that argument in the band about who should wear corpse paint or not. But like, totally, because I think if you were in Mayhem or something and someone was hanging around playing fucking, I don't know, Pokemon, it would, their fans would not like that whatsoever, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Now, maybe they could be reading dark poetry. Like, I often said that to Alan from Primordial, you should do, you know, some sort of readings from Celtic books or something. People would probably love that, like.
Yeah, they probably would if you started reading like some famine stuff, famine diaries.
Are we on the famine, are we? My thing with like selling out would definitely be that Machine Head thing where they did one album of those horrible fucking new metal tunes just to stay relevant and to stay on a trend. But then because that's grabbing cash just for the sake of staying relevant. But people fucking grow, and like if someone decided to gradually bring those elements because they're into it,
grand.
I might not. Yeah, fuck.
But that's something else.
Who am I
to
to tell you
like,
what you're supposed to do with your art? Do you know what I mean? But if you just all of a sudden,
but if you're in a band with 4 members, Evan, and one of them is pushing really hard to do that, and the other 3 don't.
It's probably the label that's pushing to do that.
And there's the label
they were with Roadrunner,
Like, I think that I don't think that labels are capable of offering bands good advice in that regard. Being all like, I guarantee any band, if they were all like, we're going to cover a load of Beatles songs, they'd be like, brilliant idea. That's perfect, you know. It's like no one's going to say you better watch out for your artistic integrity here. Like, you know, don't do that because your fans won't like it. They'll be like, who cares what your fans think? You might get more. You might get disco fans.
That's exactly what I mean. Like, they're just like, yeah, cool, man. If there's more people, more money, that's do that. Go with that. Music is a business at the end of the day. It's
like the Tool song "Hooker with a Penis."
Yeah, like, exactly. Like, I think there's an idealistic thing of people like, give out your music for free. It's like, okay,
but they're singing about a guy who's like calling them sellouts, and he's like drinking can of Coke, wearing a pair of Vans. Yeah. Like he is, and he's like, and Maynard Keenan like admits it. He's like, I sold my soul to make a fucking record, like.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. It's in like, did I enjoy it? Yeah, I did. Yeah, cool. Move on. Like, don't be, unless it's fucking shit, then I'll go my way.
Try being a father then and being dragged to fucking musicals into cinema.
Oh dear.
Yes, I'm not going to go there, but I will go back to the whole thing about the romanticism of a band trying to find their way back to their original roots. Everybody will get sucked into that, you know. Everybody will, because it's the natural.
Richie, as you're saying, it's like that reminds you of when you were that age, you know, whenever you were young. So whatever the album was, if it's Burn Red or whatever the thing that you connect with loads, you're like romanticized by the idea of feeling like you did whenever you were
give me that feeling again. Like
I remember getting the day off school whenever Garage Inc. came out. My mum like was taking me to school in the morning. She was like, it's a new Metallica album, you've got the day off school, you can just sit in the house and
what a fucking
Jesus, what a mother.
Like, my mum's an old hippie.
That would ever happen.
Yeah, the white and
it's crazy to think as well, like going into shops, like we'll say with labels now where like you would pay for a CD when it came out $25.
Oh yeah, they went up that high,
that was grand, and like you wouldn't think twice about it, like, you know. So
you would if you were broke.
If it was an album, like, and, do you know what? I've bought albums that even if I thought it was fucking shit, because I actually went in and bought it and spent the money, I'll find something that I like. Do you know,
it was a big thing. See, late in the 90s, man, there was now you weren't going to get Metallica albums for this price, but there was. Like Tower Records and a whole bunch of people around that stage started going from €15 for any CD where there was 4 for €20, and you could go and buy like, you know, I don't know, like whenever it's 4 for 20 quid, and you were so used to it costing that much money, you would go and buy Miles Davis kind of blue, or
Miles Davis is amazing. Like,
but you know, you could take a chance on music because it was only a fiver. Whereas, Richie, you'll definitely remember. See, whenever things like Led Zeppelin BBC sessions, and it was like 25 quid for 2 CDs. You're like, that's my fucking pocket money. Like, you're going to listen to everything on that and just be like,
yeah.
There you go. Great example. I have it. Fuck's sake.
And do you remember as well whenever Metallica brought out their live box set? I knew one guy who had it, and people would be coming up to, like, queued up outside his house. It was like 200 quid or something.
Was the live shit binge Bird? Yeah. I remember a friend of mine, Barry, had it, and I remember like, he got it for Christmas, so it was just like waiting for the time where like all the Christmas shit is done enough that like I can call up to his house that I'm not going to be there with like a load of different family members, and we're just sitting watching this thing being like, this is
that's
unreal.
another great
example
of record label manipulation of the fans.
Yeah, because it was so expensive at the time. And
Jesus Christ, but loads of people got it.
Yeah,
because they wanted it, and it was fucking marketed in Kerrang, it was marketed in Metal Hammer, and you were just going, Jesus Christ, you'd be thrown into a panic going, I have to have it.
At the same time, though, we had attention spans then. Do you know what I mean? It's like we don't have attention spans now.
No, because you're flooded with everything now on the internet.
Everything is accessible and easy to get.
Yeah, but back then, the magazines made this whole thing of, you have to have it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whereas now they'll still be like, you have to have it. You'll stream it and go, yeah, that was cool, man. You'll talk about it, but then you move on to the next thing. It's like,
I'll never forget Jason from Grave Sermon. He summed it up. The magic is gone. The fucking magic is gone from finance.
This is a good one, man. Who has brought records back? As in, bought a CD and then came back the next day with been like, this is fucking.
Because you still get a receipt. It's a fucking.
Yeah, I remember doing that like a couple of times, and it was again.
You actually bought a record back.
Yeah, it was like
I never bought one back.
Holy fuck!
Bill Steer had a band after Carcass called Firebird, and they were brilliant. But like after their first or second album, they brought out something that was totally shite, and it was again had ordered into the shop, 17 quid, and then you're like, oh, this is like 17 quid is all my beer money and the cigarette. I was going to have a night on the town for 17 quid back then, So I thought I'd go back.
What about you, Danielle? Did you ever feel like that?
Yeah, I remember when All Hope Is Gone came out by Slipknot. Like, my mum was working. I knew it would be a Slipknot one. Yeah, my mum was working, and my dad said he'd take me down to Limerick to get the album the day it came out. And, just absolutely fucking buzzed for it. Even St. Anger, when St. Anger came out, buzzing for that. But yeah, I think that kind of, actually, Evan, you probably relate to this, like, the kind of buzz that we got, because we didn't have so many of those albums, was when you got a song downloaded from LimeWire. That was it. LimeWire, Joe, and you were just there, and you'd be looking for the song for hours, and it keep downloading. You'd be waiting 2 hours for it to download, and then you click it, and it'd be a fucking ad.
Or else it'd be some band like with Tool stuff that would like find a way to upload their stuff as an unreleased Tool track.
Totally.
And then it would just be there, like some band, like, and there are loads of like, and I can still remember
what you're on about here.
LimeWire was the jam.
It's basically like Napster is, again, going back to labels, like
2003 kind of crack, wasn't it? Really?
And do you remember as well, like how much fucking, and I think about this so often, how much shit Lars Ulrich got for the whole Napster thing, right? He got fucking, like, people were burning Metallica records.
Yeah.
Fast forward now, where every single fucking artist is saying how bullshit this is, and people are now trying their best to buy vinyls or buy anything to support artists. But at the time, it was just like, oh, what? So we're not, like, it was this like romanticism.
But if you think about
we go
Lars,
to your gigs
right?
and blah blah blah.
If you think about Lars, he
often do.
Came from a vinyl fucking history. His dad had it, he had it, and he suddenly became one of the most successful bands ever, and fucking knew it. He called it correctly. It was down to his personality.
It was the fact was the very fact was that the internet was changing the world. You know.
Yeah.
But he called it, Joe. I mean, he had the balls to call it.
Right? No, he's right about the thing that happened, but it was an inevitable thing that was going to happen. There was no way to control it. And I'll tell you two other things. No one likes hearing millionaires giving off about how fucking scuffed up their yacht
that was
is.
A huge thing of it. Yeah, that was a huge thing.
Metallica, if Sid Anger had been as good as Master Puppets, people would have went out and bought it.
No, I think if James Hetfield came out and fucking called it, there would have been a completely different reaction.
If James Hetfield came around my house and told me to delete all my downloads of Metallica, I would say yes.
Yes, and that's it.
I throw the computer out the window as well. Like, people just like to rip on Lars. Like,
but I mean, the man is responsible for Metallica's sound. He's unlikable, but I'm just. You have to fucking realize that he had all the stuff. And got James into everything. I don't like the guy either, but like he had
interviewed him 10 years ago,
everything.
And he was dead sound. Like he was and very knowledgeable about what was going on in the metal scene and etc. etc. Like he knew what Exodus were at and stuff.
Yeah, I he's not an asshole, like, you know.
Yeah, but he is. But you can't question his knowledge on the scene. He is an asshole, but you cannot question his knowledge on it. It's fucking unbelievable.
If he wasn't in Metallica, I don't think Metallica would have been. Like, if they had a fucking amazing drummer, I think Metallica probably would have ended up just being...
That's interesting.
Something... I genuinely, like, because he was the fucking drive, and there's times in my head, and Brian said it to me, and I hate it, but I admit it, is like... I get Lars is like... Like, I'm not shit, but compared to a lot of... Like, I'll always compare myself to, like, the fucking super top up, but, like, I'll have a drive, you know? Like, I'll definitely have, and there's, like...
Is that another podcast? Could Metallica have made it without Lars?
But it's the same as
I'm settling in here, probably not. Like,
people are always slagging off Kirk Hammett on the guitar, and, like, I see the same as, like, I think that Lars is an annoying person, but... like ultimate respect. He's played really, really awfully on loads of a bunch of things, and I've seen him being really bad. But like, dude, that guy played on Master Puppets, you know. And like, I don't know anyone who's that good on the drums, you know. Like, yes, the drum parts are kind of simple in parts, but same as Kirk Hammett, that stuff was like it sold millions of copies because it was brilliant.
But like, have you seen the download where Joey Jordison had to cover for Lars Ulrich?
Yeah.
And I was the biggest Joey Jordison fan. He was like the reason I started drumming and everything like that. And you just wonder, is it just a bit overcooked, the drums, then when he's going on and doing all these fills?
Yeah. It's too good.
He's too good for it.
I got that with what's his name, the drummer with Sepultura at the moment. He's fucking one of the best drummers ever.
He's unbelievable. Eloy Casagrande.
Yeah,
you are. Yeah.
I watched him do.
He's fucking.
Was it Battery or Damage Incorporated? And it was fucking nuts.
He's fucking incredible. And do you know what the thing is?
But then it didn't sound Metallica.
Power he has. Yeah, well, I think it's not like,
because he said it. He made no excuse because look, this is my version of it.
Yeah, that's it. Like, he always puts his own thing.
Yeah.
But the thing as well is like that. Lars has such a I feel of all of them business wise, like, and label wise and everything. Like, I feel like he is the one that honed in on that and is the. Usually ends up being the bastard because he's seeing the business side of things and
so like getting back to the thing, would Metallica have been as big as they would have without Lars? I don't think they would have.
Simple as that. Everything about that, like the Elektra deal, the Q Prime management deal, then signed Vertigo and Phonograph and all. That's all him being a very shrewd guy. And like, a big thing that a lot of Metallica fans talk about really is that there's a naivety about the first three albums until Cliff's death, you know? It's like, we're all in it together, we're all writing it, and, you know, we're all hanging about smelly socks and stuff. But after Cliff's death, it was like, James Hetfield's in charge of the creative direction of the band, and Lars is in charge of everything else, you know?
Yeah, he'll do the
no
business.
one else gets to say. And like, Kirk Hammett has been in that situation since Dot. There's a bit in Some Kind of Monster when he's all like, we don't put guitar solos on this album, it's going to suck. Like, and they're like, well, that's only, who cares what you have to say? You're only Kirk Hammett.
Yeah.
It's awful. Like, poor dude. Like,
so it's just all about the music, guys.
I just love there's that clip like where they're talking and it's like, you know, I think James says something anyway, and you can see that Kirk just knows it's going to go to a fight, and like Lars is in like the background, and you're going to see Kirk just go. I'm like, yeah, he knows, yeah.
But he's one of those dudes, isn't he? Like, where I think that would Metallica have been as good with Dave Mustaine? Yeah, probably, maybe a bit better. Dave Mustaine is, I think he's a great guitar player, you know.
Well, I think it's proved straight away if he can go and start Megadeth. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, I feel like there's no doubt with that.
Like, Dave Mustaine's too much of a Hetfield type character. He's a good lead guitar player, but he's not amazing, and he's a brilliant riffer. So if he was in Metallica, you'd have these two brilliant riff guys, and no one who was amazing at lead. So
yeah.
We're straying from the point there, though. We're straying from the point.
But like, what I'm wondering if Lars started a label, like that could either be the fucking best thing or the worst thing.
I think he has a label.
He would like
I could be 100% wrong. I thought he has.
Like, you know,
Yeah, Hot Chip. Yeah,
he wouldn't be too interested.
And re-release that single, like.
Yeah, Hot Chip and fucking The Verve and Coldplay.
Yep.
Oh, actually, yeah, he'd actually be managing Oasis now. Oasis would be
Oasis are
reformed
actually a sick
under
band,
fucking
mate. Oasis are a sick
under
band.
Lars. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Oasis are sick.
But
band, mate.
yeah, it's no is the answer, Evan. To I would say that without Lars, Metallica would have been another Exodus.
Probably, yeah.
But no cigar type job, you know.
That exactly. You know, it just comes down to having someone that has taken knowledge of labels and like the actual industry side of it. Do you know what I mean? And there's like there's always someone in the band that isn't going, like, you know, not saying that it's like, oh, we have to make money, but it's just like is going to have to be a drive to push and wreck everyone's fucking heads, because like every band is going to have that. Is going to have the guy to be like, come on, we're going to do this. Because if you don't, that you're probably just you'll play a few gigs in a local gig, and you know you'll get people telling you're fucking class, but that's it. Like, you know, you need someone that's going to push and properly like kind of try to do it, whether it fails or not, and like try to get as much of the knowledge of the actual industry through failing or not.
I think a lot about it is to do with camaraderie between those guys. You know, like no matter what you think of them musically and stuff, James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich are able to write songs in a way that millions of people want to buy. You know, and like the other big four bands like Megadeth, Anthrax, and Slayer and stuff don't have that with the writing. You know, like they have fractured writing teams where it's like Mustaine on his own, or you know, like South of Heaven was written by mostly by Jeff Hanneman, and Rain and Blood was mostly written by Kerry King or whatever, or vice versa. So it's like, unless you have a really cohesive writing team the way that they do, they can't pump it out. And that's why Maiden were so good. Whenever Iron Maiden had that great team in the 80s that could write all these great songs, and whenever the guitar player left, things started sounding shit again. You know?
That wasn't the 80s, Joe. Did you just say that? Yeah. Just.
But what about bands that, like, you know, will get a label and the label will try get writers in? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That
it's not so,
man.
Well, like Aerosmith in the 70s, Aerosmith used to write all their own tunes, and whenever Aerosmith got back together in the late 80s, like Desmond Child, or you know, they were but he was writing the songs for Bon Jovi and stuff. They were just like, fuck, let's get this dude in. Like, you know, he knows exactly what he's doing. You know.
Yeah.
But it's nuts. I think that whole thing is crazy. I could totally understand, you know, if it was like fucking, you know, Rob Flynn writing a song for someone else's album. But the idea of like getting outside writers in who are like, okay, you guys don't know what it is to be, you know, Machine Head. Let's get someone who has a better idea than you in to write.
That's selling out.
That is. There's no one's ever going to defend that being all like, actually.
No, I don't think so. It comes down to the whole thing with like Prince. Like, if you compare like Prince to Michael Jackson, is that one like Prince was 19, wrote and played every instrument on his album, whereas Michael Jackson had like a team of 20-something
Well,
writers.
I don't agree with you about that, man, because there's a really cool interview with Madonna, and Madonna was saying, you know, whenever she started out, she was really manipulated by the people who were involved in helping her write the music. And she said she talked to Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was like, I can't play any musical instruments whatsoever. I don't know anything about music. But like I have a tape recorder, so I'll sit and go, you know, bim 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 bim, and then I'll go and hire an amazing bass player to play that, and then I've written it.
But he's actually had like full writers, though. He's had full writers if you're comparing to someone like Prince, who played everything. Like even he played the drums on when he was like 19. I think it was like the first.
He's a brilliant. Like I'm not gonna get into a discussion with you about how brilliant Prince is. He was totally awesome.
The reason I came here, like,
I think it's the same thing as like Michael Jackson was one of those dudes who knew that if he wanted to keep his songwriting credit, it involved him telling other people what to do, and he told Madonna the same thing, and that's how they did it. Whereas like Prince was the dude in Prince who, like, my friend did sound for them at the Point Depot in 2006 or whatever. Said he was loading in the gear to do monitors and stuff like that. And Prince fired everyone in the entire crew and got the local guys to rig up the entire stage, and then got my mate to like put the sound together while Prince was standing there being like, yeah, turn that up. And he's like, right, okay. Like, the dude's fucking a genius, but he was nuts.
Jesus Christ.
Okay,
this is it, lads. We have discussed it, and to the nth degree in relation to record labels. I hope those younger lads that are watching this might get some insight, and thank you, Joe, for offering a lot of insight in relation to your band.
For offering to sign a load of bands.
Yeah, your next step up will be manager. And as I said, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Storm of Fleet Burner. I'm wearing his t-shirt tonight, man, and it's a sad story, but I really want him to continue making music, because that album is a fantastic testament to his willpower and getting it over the line. And it's a fucking sad indictment on the whole scene that he wants to fucking just give it away now and just not fucking continue. So
support your bands, like.
Yeah. And that's what it is. It's about trying to find, even if you can find 200 people who will buy t-shirts or buy patches, or who have what we said earlier, goodwill towards a band, you know.
Yeah.
And like Richie, what you were saying about Fleet Burner, you have really goodwill towards them, and there's loads of other people out there who do, you know. And I think that it's having negative businesses experiences whenever you just want to be a creative person. That's what upsets people about doing this sort of thing.
Okay. So thanks, Evan. Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, Joe. Hit subscribe if you like the show. Be much appreciated. And we'll catch you again next month. Support your local metal scene, crucially.